Assassin's Creed Shadows is finally on the cusp of general release, and the reviews are in, and it is not looking that good for Ubisoft. So let's talk a little bit about the game itself, what this means for Ubisoft in general, and some general observations that I've had. Hi, my name is Ojiro. I've been developing games for like 15 plus years now, and I remember the days when Ubisoft was actually pretty decent. And those days are long past. And with Assassin's Creed Shadows, the reviews, if you're like me, you've seen a lot of them, and there seems to be a pretty consistent theme that the game is an Assassin's Creed game. If you like Assassin's Creed and like doing that same gameplay over and over and over again, you're going to enjoy the game. And if you don't, you're probably not going to enjoy the game. A lot of people are coming out saying that they don't like it, they don't recommend it. Get it on a sale if it's something that you like. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the stark differences we see in a lot of things. So first off, differences between gameplay and graphics. The gameplay in all of these games is the most important part. If you have the best graphics in the world, it doesn't matter if the gameplay itself is just bad. And if it's buggy, then it's, it can make for some interesting videos.
Dude, what the hell? Dude's walking around without a head. What the hell?
As much as I like to see clips like that, it's generally not good for the developer, and it's a pretty bad impression for a lot of folks, especially after they've spent months extra working on this game. It's looking pretty, in a lot of ways, disappointing. A lot of the parkour, which is kind of the key for a lot of Assassin's Creed, seems really on rails. The assassination seems on rails. I was seeing like Naue, the female, the Kunoichi gal, go to assassinate people, and they just stop in their tracks, and they're just like, doing about their day, and then it's like Naue is like, it's time to die, and they're like, oh, I better stop everything and stand here for the animation to complete. And man, let's talk just a little bit about the graphics. The graphics are, you can't say anything other than that they're great. They look really, really fantastic. But whenever we see graphics in a video game, it's important to remember that we're in an era where it is extremely easy for people to go in and make these really beautiful environments for a game to work in. And that can be completely detached from the actual gameplay itself. And this is here just a highlight reel of the combat. You see the flowers, everything moving around. It's very beautiful. Looking in the background, it's great. Up close and personal, things look really good. Though once you get into the actual gameplay itself, it seems to be, from everyone that's playing it, it's just you spam a button. You assassinate a dude, spam the button, maybe a roll here and there. It's not particularly, if this is your kind of thing, then man, you're going to be so excited about this game, and I hope you have a fun time. But graphics and gameplay aside, everyone that I've seen playing this game is playing in English, and I always consider English voice acting to be generally pretty bad, but we've gotten some true gems through this whole process.
Resentment can grow quietly without much warning after a storm. Mushrooms can too. Shiitake?
Mushrooms. The smell of dirt, grass, and rain.
Now, while this particular example is making its rounds on social media, in general, I think pretty much everyone kind of sucks. You start out the game with Yasuke, and it's whatever. And then pretty much immediately you're stuck playing Naue, which, I spent most of my time watching just Asmongold playing it, and him being like, I'm ready to get back to Yasuke. But no, you're just stuck with her. And I don't know if I can blame the voice actors, because I feel like with a lot of these cases, last clip was an example. Somebody working at Ubisoft heard that and said, this is good enough for production. It's not. It sounds like somebody really phoned it in as like a filler voice piece, and it just got left into the game. It is the company itself at the end of the day that has to give the thumbs up or thumbs down to the voice artist's work. And if you're working with people that are not terribly good voice artists, then yeah, you're just not gonna have a great product. I don't think um, kind of any of the voices I've heard are particularly great. Japanese, fantastic. I feel like this game, most games like Ghost of Tsushima as well, like Japanese is great. If you don't want to read subtitles, however, you're going to have to suffer through this. And I am so sorry for you because it is, or maybe you'll enjoy it because you can laugh at it and be like, wow, this is pretty bad. But man, it is something special. Now, the thing that is frustrating about not only just the voice act with voice acting, it's okay in Japanese, right? If you're okay with the Assassin's Creed style combat, you're happy. You're happy with the environments. I think there's only one thing in the environments where I was like, this is kind of a weird issue. And it was when there was snow outside and when Naue was on top of the roofs, she like the snow didn't move with her feet actually like touching the top of the building. On the ground, it was perfectly fine though. But aside from that little thing, it's kind of whatever. But all of these things, they're all kind of, aside from the actual graphics themselves, the gameplay, the voice actors, and the writing are all multipliers. And in terms of the gameplay, it's kind of mediocre. In terms of the voice acting, also mediocre. But the writing, it's special.
Really? I do not think I have ever seen you quite so tongue-tied.
Not yet, at least. I hope you aren't easily chilled. Do you think someone might see us?
Maybe.
Do you care?
Not at all.
Now, I know I'm just poking at the romance parts here, but my God, like the terrible writing we've seen pretty consistently from Western writers when it comes to anything romance related is just unbelievable. Every like what was it, Tosh in Veilguard growling at somebody as to make it like sexy, and like there some writers like, oh man, this is so hot, I think this is great. And someone's seeing these, they're writing this stuff in AC Shadows and they're like, yes, this is truly, oh, I'm getting so hot and bothered just reading this, or I guess watching in this case.
Am I worthy of such a treasure?
Allow me to look into your eyes and see into your heart. You are more than worthy. And this moment we have shared will be my treasure to keep.
I mean, it's just weird, right? Like this is not how people act at all. Though I expected them to keep doing a bunch of stupid stuff. So they were talking about like having them raid like an emperor's tomb, and the Japanese were like, no, that's not only wrong, but some were pointing out it may be illegal. And then we got this gem where Yasuke's like romancing up the sister to Oda Nobunaga.
Here we are, alone at last. Yet I don't know what to say.
I do. Someone once said it like this. You are a daimyo's daughter, and I am just a samurai.
Not just. Never just.
Lady Oishi, I have learned something in my battles. Time is a veil. Tomorrow is an illusion.
And all we have left is here and now.
I haven't heard any response from the Japanese in regards to that scene yet, but I'm just waiting for somebody to like put it together a compilation because the amount of insults that has just been hurled at Japan through this whole process, and Ubisoft being like, "Oh no, well we've got all these experts with us that are advising us on the game," and it's like your experts didn't say things like, "Hey, don't desecrate shrines in Japan. Hey, don't desecrate the Torii gates. Hey, don't." uh insult the emperor's family, or don't, I mean, even like non-cultural things, and just being like, hey, these are real life locations. Generally, if there's a real life location, you can't just use it in your commercial work. Like, generally you have to, in a lot of cases, be like, hey, can I use your name and likeness? And you've got real shrines and temples that are like, yeah, we're the same temple that was back, 500-600 years ago, that's in this game, and no one talked to us. And there's an amazing video that I saw this morning, and then I saw it again when Asmongold reacted to it, and it is from um, Shohei Kondo. I'm just bringing it up here. I'm going to put a link to this if you haven't seen it, where he goes over the Japanese diet and their prime minister making comments on how insulting this whole thing has been to Japan, and a lot of their concerns and regarding uh, basically, they've got their own issues right now where a bunch of like kick streamers and so forth are going into Japan and harassing people because they view the Japanese as kind of like pushovers because they're super polite. Johnny Somali did it, got kicked out, tried to do the same thing in Korea. Now he's going to jail. Best ending for him right there. But they make a lot of good points where they're just like, hey, we don't want people desecrating shrines. We don't want people putting graffiti on stuff. And these things are already happening from foreigners coming in to visit Japan. So this is nothing but bad PR for Ubisoft. And and the thing with all this is I don't believe this would be as big of a deal if Yasuke were not part of this. I think Yasuke being a part of this pushed so much attention into the game. Because if it were your standard fare, Japanese player character, and they had followed their own formula of saying we make up personalities to put in these games, but they broke it here with Yasuke, which then turned it into a big cultural issue because we all knew why they added Yasuke into the game, and people were trying to play stupid and say, hey, if you don't believe that Yasuke is a samurai, you're a racist. And it's like, dude, this is just bad. And all these issues are just, they've been piling up for a while. And to see the prime minister of Japan being like, yo, this Ubisoft stuff is pretty messed up is an amazing thing to watch. And I do, one last thing that we need to talk about is the cost of everything. Now, this is a post from Grums where he's talking about how this delay for Ubisoft cost them about $21 million. Rumored budget between 250 to 350 million without marketing. This is an extremely expensive game. This is reaching Concord levels of expensive. Dude, like, I this whole thing just blows me away. Yeah, it graphically looks great, but the number of units you're going to have to push to make this even break even is, I'm not sure they're going to be able to do it. I could totally see them needing at least like, I don't know, something close to like 5 million units sold, which is doable. I'm sure they could sell like 1 million, maybe 2 million, with people that are just like, hey, I like Assassin's Creed, I'm just going to buy it. Or they just, they're just like, oh, I like this franchise, I'll just buy the next entry. Because there's a lot of people that do that. And then if you like that, perfectly fine. You spend your money however you want to spend it. But there's 18,000 people that work at Ubisoft. It is a hot mess. And if you, think I was estimating it at like over $1 billion a year on headcount. And like, that's, uh, you're not going to get that out of a lot of their games. A lot of their games are pretty lackluster and they're very expensive because they're tasking so many people with building these things. I don't think Assassin's Creed Shadows has the ability to make or break Ubisoft. I think no matter what happens with the release of Assassin's Creed Shadows, you are going to have layoffs at Ubisoft. I have been seeing rumors they're talking about doing some weird thing where they spin out a like new unit that controls the IP to protect it against investors that are trying to get the company sold. I I don't know how much of that is true. We've also heard them talking about potentially selling IP to other companies, which would be fantastic because they've got a lot of IP that honestly they're not going to be able to do anything with. They can't make games for jack shit. This company is going to have to go through some severely major layoffs this year. I think it is only a matter of how successful is Assassin's Creed Shadows in um, informing how big those layoffs should be. Because if we're all wrong and Assassin's Creed Shadows is this huge hit, then there's going to be a lot of faith in that. Was it the Guillemot? I don't remember their names exactly. That family that controls Ubisoft. There'll be a lot of faith towards them, and they can say, "Hey, we had this really successful title. Um, Maybe they can get more investment funds, ask for loans. I know they've got a tremendous amount of debt. Last I checked, it was like I think several $1 billion of debt. Um, but they could potentially do it. Like they could have something to point to say that this is really successful. But on the other hand, if this is a flop, it's not going to be a Concord level flop because that was like a once in a decade failure. Like if we're looking at like maybe 1 million, 2 million copies sold and they need something like 10 million to break even, then a lot of that political capital that they've got talking with investors is kind of shot. They're not going to be able to have a successful product that they can point to ask for like more loans. I don't know how stuff works in France. It's a weird country. I've been to Paris once and it was super gross. I'll never go again. And that's about my experience with France. I went to Normandy too. That was pretty awesome. I would suggest people go do that. It's really amazing place to be. But yeah, this company is in for some hard times. And we're going to see, I think, over the next couple of weeks with the sales coming out on how hard those times are going to be. But I am here to watch this slow moving train wreck, one YouTube video at a time. But that's all for me today. Thank you all for your time. And I hope to see you again in a future video. Farewell.